Hey, this is Kale from sewingmachineshop.com, and today we're going to be looking at the best sewing machines in the world for under $500. I'm a trained sewing machine repairman, third generation in the sewing machine industry, following in the footsteps of my father, my uncle, my grandfather. I've repaired and troubleshooted thousands of machines over the years, had conversations with thousands of different sewists, and I believe I've developed a solid grasp on what to look for if you're in the market for a new machine. In coming up with this list, I looked at 4 different things. One is obviously budget, keeping it under that $500 price point. 2 is performance. Does the machine make beautiful stitches? 3 is reliability. Is the machine well built? And 4 is user friendliness. Is the sewing machine easy to use? Is the design intuitive for the user? So first on this list are 3 machines priced at $249, the Baby Lock Joy, the Janome TM16, and the Elna EM16. All 3 models are Janome built machines built on the exact same platform. If there is such a thing as sewing machine biology, then these 3 would be biologically identical triplets. They were all built in the same factory, they all share the same design, the same features and qualities. Literally the only difference between the 3 is cosmetics, the plastic cover, the paint job, and the branding. Everything else is the same. In terms of user friendliness, this machine is designed with a top-loading drop-in bobbin. There are similar machines around this price point that have a front-loading bobbin, but I'm a big believer in the top-loading drop-in bobbin because it's just a lot easier to use. Other features to note, this machine has 16 different stitch patterns, 4-step buttonhole, it's mechanical so there's no electronics, drop feed for stippling, free motion, and darning, top-loading bobbin as I mentioned before, and then the last but not least, this machine is built with metal housing. A standout characteristic of this machine is its reliability. It's designed with a metal frame, or as we call it, metal housing, opposed to a lot of machines at this price point which are designed with plastic housing. If I wanted to, I could take off the plastic cover of this machine and still sew on it because all the critical components are lodged in that metal housing. Here you can see the machine's metal housing on the left. This is the machine that I'm talking about, this $249 guy. Meanwhile, you take a machine that is a #1 bestseller on Amazon, machines carried by big box stores like Walmart, machines that the New York Times Wirecutter somehow recommends as the best-selling sewing machine for beginners. That machine's pictured here on the right. I can't fully remove the plastic cover on this machine and sew on it because the back plastic cover actually serves as the machine's housing. All critical components are bolted into that plastic. This is horrible design. As you can imagine, if that plastic warps at all sorts of critical settings will get thrown out of time. Needle hook timing, needle hook clearance, needle bar height, feed timing, etc. The number of times I've had someone come into the shop with one of these poor quality machines that they say is new but is not working. Heartbreaking may be too strong of a word to use, but it is infuriating because these people leave dejected. They just got this new machine New York Times said was the best, or that a sewing influencer online claims to sew all their cool stuff on, or the manufacturer labeled as heavy duty when that is just a flat out lie. Not only did the machine break quickly, but it costs nearly as much to repair as it costs to purchase. The solution is to instead get a machine built with metal housing. The Janome TM16, the Baby Lock Joy, the Elna EM16. Our shop sold hundreds of this platform during COVID, shipping them all over the country, and me and my dad have actually laughed about this model because it's just such an incredible product at $249. They make beautiful stitches, they're relatively easy to use, and they are impossible to break. Nobody ever calls us to say that the machine isn't working. We hardly ever see it go out of time, and if it does, it's because the user usually tried to sew through something crazy thick. If you don't want to spend over $250, then this is a machine for you. Okay, so next on the list is the Juki HZL-LB5020 for $399. You might be familiar with Juki because they're the world's leading manufacturer of industrial sewing machines. They're now in the home sewing machine market as well. I don't love all their home sewing machines, but I love this model in particular because it's actually built by Janome for Juki. Our shop has been in the business for over 40 years. We can sell any brand we want, any model of machine we want, but under $500, we only carry Janome built machines, and that's because we know them to be so darn reliable. Similar to the $249 mechanical model, this Juki still gives you a semi-automatic needle threader, a top-loading bobbin that's easy to load, drop feed for stippling and free motion. The big difference is that this is not a purely mechanical machine. It has electronics, which is the reason you're able to get 20 different stitch patterns, automatic buttonhole, speed control slider, automatic back stitch, and most importantly, you're able to get needle up down. Needle up down is a feature that I'll probably stress until the day I die because it makes the machine more fun to use and more difficult to break. When you sew on a mechanical machine, The needle will stop in whatever position it's in when you take your foot off the foot pedal, which means that if you stop sewing and you want to pull the fabric out, you actually have to turn the hand wheel until the machine completes its stitch cycle before you can pull the fabric out. Meanwhile, on this Juki with needle up down, you can actually program the machine for the needle to stop in the down position or the up position when you take your foot off the foot pedal. If you have it programmed to stop in the up position, then it's easy. You take your foot off the foot pedal, needle stops in the highest position, the stitch cycle is complete, you can pull your fabric out easily. Most people will have the machine programmed to stop in the down position, where you take your foot off the foot pedal and the needle stops down in your fabric. This makes it easy to pivot the fabric if you're doing a quilt top or something like that. It makes it easy to check your seam allowance for garment sewing, crafting, that kind of thing. And when it's time to pull your fabric out, you just hit the needle up down button, the needle goes to the highest position, the stitch cycle is complete, you lift up your presser foot, you pull your fabric out. Needle up down is also a great feature when it comes to threading your machine. One of the most common issues I see is when someone brings me their machine and complains that it's making really large loops on the backside of the fabric reminiscent of a bird nest. This is a telltale sign that the user accidentally forgot to thread their take-up lever. The beautiful thing about needle up down is that if you get in the habit of pressing the needle up down button prior to threading the machine, it'll send the take-up lever to the ideal threading position where it's really difficult to misthread. It also puts the needle in the ideal position for the needle threader to successfully thread the needle. So in that sense, this single feature makes the machine easier to use, less frustrating, and thereby more fun to use and more difficult to break. If $399 is within your budget, then I highly recommend you get this Juki machine. I know that some people don't want an electronic machine because they fear that the electronics are just another thing that can break, and that's true with poorly built electronic machines, but this Juki is built by Janome, and Janome has their electronics down to a T. We really never see issues in terms of electronics on these Janome machines, and I'm confident telling you that the electronics will not fail on you for at least 20 years. Last on our list is our stretch machine, and by stretch I mean stretch our budget a little bit. For $599 we have the Baby Lock Jubilant and the Brother NS80E. Similar to our $249 mechanical models, the Jubilant and the NS80E are biologically identical twins. They're built in the same factory, they share all the same hardware, all the same features, literally identical except that on the plastic cover you have a different paint job and you have a different brand name. Personally, I love this model. In terms of user friendliness, it is the most user-friendly machine in the world in the year 2025. It's the least expensive machine you can buy where you get a truly automatic needle threader instead of a semi-automatic needle threader, which the previous two machines on this list had. To better demonstrate how easy this needle threader is to use, I'm just going to refer to Baby Lock's video.
The first thing that you want to do before you thread is just touch the needle up-down button to make sure that your needle's in the highest position, and then we're going to lift up the presser foot. And now you're going to take your thread and just make sure that your thread is coming off of the bottom of the spool, not over the top. And then follow the numerical path marked with a solid line. So the first step is under this guide, underneath of this guide, and then we kind of come down the front of the machine, back up and around, and then come back down the front again, and there's a guide at the very top of the needle, and then it comes across number 7, and then you take it directly to the thread cutter. Now you're ready to put the foot back down again, and then simply push down on the needle threading lever. Now you are threaded and ready to sew.
In addition to the truly automatic needle threader, you also get 80 different stitch patterns to choose from. And I know a lot of people will say I don't need 80 different stitch patterns, but it is nice to have optionality when it comes to choosing your different utility stitch. So for example, these machines have 7 or 8 different automatic buttonholes to choose from. They have options when it comes to overcast stitches, so I'd use a different overcast stitch on a stretchy fabric than I would on a thick canvas or denim fabric. You also get bar tacking, which is nice for installing belt loops or reinforced garment construction. Another thing worth noting is that the touch and feel of this machine is awesome. Super smooth to sew on. People remark on it all the time, especially if coming from an older machine from the 80s or 90s. They absolutely love the feel of this machine as they sew. It's also worth noting that the navigation on this machine is super intuitive. Selecting a stitch is as simple as turning the wheel to the stitch number. There's a plus minus button next to the screen so you can easily adjust the stitch length and stitch width. Quick story that demonstrates this point. About a year and a half ago, I was working with a woman who is legally blind. She really wanted to start sewing again. She had a budget of around $2,000. We tested out all sorts of machines at that $2,000 price point, but at the end of the day, we ended up settling on the Jubilant because it was the easiest machine to use. Both these guys are priced at $5.99 online, but you should give us a call at 925-937-7575. Sometimes there are in-store specials that bring the price down closer to our $500 budget. Thank you so much for watching. There will be a lot more videos like this in the future, so remember to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, or shoot us a comment in the comment section. Also, feel free to visit our website, sewingmachineshop.com. If you want to cash in on some of the sweet deals we have going on right now, I'll leave a link in the description below this video. Last but not least, I write a weekly newsletter on Substack called the Sewing Machine Newsletter. It's free to sign up, and all you have to do is enter your email, and we send out a weekly sewing machine educational article that shows up in your inbox. Subscribe to that if you want more educational sewing machine content. I'll leave a link in the description below this video. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, happy sewing.